up on The Reaction.
As an investigation is underway into allegations hospital staff tried to access Kate's medical records, has the interest in this story now gone too far?
Jeremy Hunt has had a row with James Dyson, telling him to stand for election if you think you can do a better job. Could there be more to mild-mannered Jezza than we realise? And could he be hoping to take Rishi Sunak's place?
Plus, says J.K. Rowling, my favourite author, says she'll defy Scotland's new hate crime laws. Is the tide finally turning our way in the gender war?
And after Oprah's TV special about being judged on her weight, I will tell you about my experience with weight loss injectables. Hello and welcome to The Reaction with me, Sarah Vine.
And me, Andrew Pearce. We're here every Wednesday on the Daily Mail's YouTube channel, so please make sure you like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.
So it's another shocking twist in what has been a difficult few weeks for the Prince and Princess of Wales. There is a police investigation, no less, into allegations that staff at the London clinic where Kate was being treated tried to access her medical records.
And it comes, of course, just days after an unofficial video clip filmed by a member of the public was published showing Kate and William shopping at their favourite farm shop in Windsor.
I mean, the London clinic really have a lot of questions to answer, don't they? Because I have to say, the London clinic is where every single toff goes to get their operations done. Apparently, it has a cellar with Berry Brothers. It's like it has a sommelier. It's so posh.
I've walked past it, but of course I've never been allowed in. My sort aren't allowed. But it reeks of privilege. Yeah. Macmillan used to go there. Princess Margaret, the Queen was treated there. The Duke of Edinburgh. And they go there because they implicitly trust the staff, privacy, confidentiality. What worries me most about this potential breach, Sarah, is somebody trying to access her records. Was this just out of prurient interest? Because lots of people are speculating what's wrong with her. Was it somebody who wanted, a doctor or somebody or a medic wanted to reveal at their dinner party, I can tell you what's wrong with her? Or worse still, was it somebody who thought, I can flog this for vast amounts of money? Now, there'd be no publication anywhere in Britain would touch it with a barge pole because it's such a breach. But in the United States, be to the highest bidder, and they would find a market for it. Then it'd be all over the internet, it'd be all over the internet here, and inevitably, in the end, we'd be reading about it ourselves.
Yes, I mean, I do think she's got to that stage. She's almost sort of Marilyn Monroe-esque in the sort of obsession with her personal life and details and everything. She's gone into that. She's become an icon. She really has. And that when you get to that stage of fame and sort of adoration, you also get the dark side of it, which is that people become obsessed with you and they want to take advantage of you. And
she's become like Princess Diana.
She really has.
The last Princess of Wales. It's almost as if, and she even wears the engagement ring.
Yes, she does. And so I think it must be really scary for her because actually, you know, I mean, to be honest, if my medical records were published, I wouldn't really care because they're not that interesting, and I'm not that interesting.
They might be.
Not really, but you know, she does. I suspect when you get to her level of fame, you know, you have to guard quite jealously your little pockets of privacy. Yeah. And your medical records are one area where really you shouldn't have to share that information with anyone. And that's why I've always said, you know, regarding this operation of hers, she doesn't need to say what the operation is, and she just, you know, we sort of just need to accept that she's had an operation. Setting aside all the other stuff about the doctor photo stuff, that's just all kind of palace management. But that really, I think that is a line that she doesn't need to cross.
She must be so distressed now. Yeah. And who does she turn to talk about this? This is when you need that reassuring presence of Her Majesty the Queen, who's seen it, heard it, done it, felt it.
Who will say, "Don't worry, it will be fine.
It will pass.
This will pass." You know, it's just one of those things. And you know, there isn't that sort of there isn't that solidity there anymore. And
because the King is indisposed.
Well, the King is indisposed. The King's also taken a slightly different route with his illness. You know, he's been much more transparent about it. He's been much more open about it. Maybe because I don't know, he's just old. Maybe it doesn't bother him quite so much. You know, these things are really personal.
He's used to it. But the photo, and of course the photograph. So we had the Sun last week appealing on its front page, "Leave her alone." The Sun breaks.
And then they published the film.
Well, they break the story on Monday saying she's been at the Windsor farm shop. No photograph. Tuesday, not just a photograph, but the film. So, we're leaving her alone, of course, says the Sun. But the palace, it suited them. Because it's out there now,
but the thing
people
is,
can see she's fine, but the conspiracists still say it's not her, Sarah.
What's interesting about that film is that it doesn't seem to have really sort of silence the conspiracy theorists, because if you take a sort of cursory glance at the internet, you'll see that people thinking, some people are saying it's AI, some people are saying they're look-alike, some people are saying it's not her at all, some people.
Well, the BBC Sports journalist is in trouble for putting on her Twitter feed, it's clearly not her. Nobody's going to fall for that, are they?
Yeah, I mean the thing is, she doesn't look like her normal self in the clip, because she's not wearing any makeup. We're used to seeing her in gowns and sort of.
She's lost weight because she's had an operation.
But we're used to seeing her with lots of makeup, with her jewels on, with her gowns. She's just in a pair of skinny jeans and boots and what looks like a hoodie, which I thought was quite. She's just a yummy mummy doing some shopping.
And Prince William, how could he? He made her carry her own shopping.
I know, that I thought was quite rude. I mean, she's supposed to have had a massive abdominal
but
surgery.
I suspect
she shouldn't be carrying anything.
Probably only a loaf of bread, for heaven's sake.
Yes.
And actually, I thought they probably worked that out even before they left the shop, because they know somebody was going to photograph them. They can't go anywhere without being photographed.
The conspiracy theorists are all saying that the whole thing was a setup.
No, it wasn't.
And that, the grainy footage, blah, blah, blah.
No.
I don't know. The thing
it wasn't.
The truth is, I think, what I would say about the Princess of Wales is that she's been married to him for 12 years. It must feel like about 4,000.
Yes, I know.
They celebrate their 13th anniversary next month. She has not put a foot wrong.
No, I agree.
Ever.
But
and more to the point, neither has her family.
No,
they've been.
Good as gold.
And also, the whole association with the royals must be a nightmare for the Middletons.
But I remember back in 2012 when she's in hospital. I think she's in the Edward VII because she's got acute problems with morning sickness. Because remember, she was beset.
I forgot about that.
Do you remember the two Australian tricksters? They rang up from an Australian
and that
radio
woman
show.
Killed herself.
Yeah, they get through to the hospital. The woman who's on night duty, she's a nurse, thinks it's the Queen and Prince Philip, puts them through. Information is then provided, which is then broadcast on the radio in Australia, goes worldwide. And what happened? The nurse hanged herself 2 or 3 days later, which profoundly affected Kate and William. Yeah. So there will be echoes of this for her now, that
absolutely.
Here we go again. She's in a hospital where people are supposed to be looking after her, caring for her, and somebody was hacking into her records.
Yeah. So
disgusting.
To be honest, you can't really blame her for sort of trying to keep a low profile.
No.
I mean, some people would say that the way to counter this is to be super, super candid, but why should she?
No, quite. But I think we'll probably see her. Here I go, I'm speculating.
This weekend, I think?
Well, no, it's Easter Sunday, I think we'll see her.
I thought she was going to, someone said she was going to go to church at Sandringham
she might,
on Sunday.
And there's Easter Sunday a week after that. But there is a sense, though, again, that the palace aren't quite in control of events. But how do you control these events?
What I would say about the palace, I think like a lot of institutions, I think they don't really understand how the internet works. And I think they probably need to get someone in who understands it and who can sort of manage it. Yeah.
And some of the conspiracy theories on there.
You can't even download Spotify.
I can't.
But no, but
Spotify.
The thing is that they're still sort of working as though we were living in sort of 1970.
They are.
And actually, they need to sort of take that to.
And there is lurid speculation on the internet. I'm probably one of the few people in Britain who hasn't read any of it. But I was amazed that one of them suggested apparently she's on Mars. Did you know that?
Along with Elvis.
Elvis Presley. Presumably there's a commune. Who else is there?
Now, we've had this statement from the London Clinic. We have systems in place to monitor management of patient information and, in the case of any breach, all appropriate investigatory, regulatory and disciplinary steps will be taken.
Now, coming up later in the show is J.K. Rowling, who happens to be my favourite author, right to say that she plans to defy the new hate law crimes in her native Scotland.
And as Oprah Winfrey faces criticism for her TV special on weight loss, I'll tell you why I think she's right about drugs like Ozempic.
Plus, have we finally found out who is the new James Bond?
It's you.
It's not me. Now, Jeremy Hunt, he's the Chancellor of the Exchequer for now, but he's been making headlines of a different kind after he told the billionaire Sir James Dyson, quote, and I quote, "Become an MP if you think you can do a better job." And he's also been at loggerheads with HMRC. So I've known Jeremy Hunt, for a long. In fact, the first radio interview he ever did. It was at the Tory conference in 2005. I can't remember it was, and he said, "How was that?" It was a bit of a drip in the interview, actually, and I think he's a very nice man. but I think he's a bit of a drip. But this is astonishing, because Dyson is in number 11 having a chat, and it was fisticuffs. And how do we know that? Because number 11 obviously breathed it out.
So I think this is quite fun. I think this is quite a fun story, because I think it's Jezza trying to show the world that he's... Because I think he does have this reputation as being sort of a bit of a smiley, nice man.
A bit of a drip.
A bit of a drip. And, you know, everyone knows about his sprung dance floor and his passion for ballroom dancing.
He's very good at the lambada.
And he's very good at the lambada. And I think, you know, if you're going to try and pitch to be Prime Minister, you probably don't... I personally, I think they're fantastic qualities, but, you know, there would be some people who might not think they were the right skill set. So I think he's trying to sort of create a narrative that he's a bit tougher than he really is. So I love the idea of him telling James Dyson off. And do you know what? Actually, he has got a point. You know, if James Dyson really, really cares, then he can give up his multi-billionaire lifestyle and he can become an MP on whatever it is, 84,000 a year.
Well, it's just gone up to 90.
Which probably wouldn't even pay for James Dyson's, driver or flower bill.
No, it
so,
wouldn't.
You know, so I think Jeremy's got a point.
And he doesn't. Also, we have to remember, James Dyson took his business offshore for a while.
Yes, exactly.
He's brought it back, but that's not great. Great Brexiteer, of course. But you're arguing for the virtues of low-tax Britain, and you take your business offshore.
Also, can I just say that his hair colours are too expensive?
James Dyson's?
Just silly. Those Dyson air wrap thing.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously expensive.
What about his vacuums?
They're I didn't think I could say that.
They'll sue. She said it now. She thinks James Dyson... They probably have a better programme talking about James Dyson's vacuum than James Dyson.
I think Shark is much better than Dyson. That's my view. I'm sticking to it.
I've got a red one that you pull along. I don't know what it's called. But also...
Is it the one with the smiley face on it?
Yeah, one of those.
So sweet.
Yeah, but the other thing Hunt did this week, which is quite interesting, HMRC, astonishingly, announced it was to close, shut down for a holiday. It was going to close down for the summer, so you'd have to have a bot conversation, which basically means on AI. They were going to close from April to September. That's not a summer holiday, HMRC. That's shutting for 6 months of the year. Hunt clearly saw that, intervened behind the scenes, and they backed off. And that's good. So that is good.
Because the thing is...
He's flexing his muscles.
HMRC don't just send you horrible letters between September and April. They send
them all year round.
All year round. So
and also,
they need to be there. When you get your horrible letter and you think, I need to speak to someone.
And if you're like Sarah and I, who don't understand income tax, you don't understand anything about money or numbers, you need to be able to have a conversation with somebody at HMRC, not start sending messages to a bot. Is it called a bot?
Yeah.
Whatever.
I get very
stressed
if I have a brown envelope from HMRC. Even just opening it takes me about 2 days.
And that's 2 days too long, because every day you delay, if you owe them money, they're going to charge you interest.
No, I get in a real state about it.
Well, we all do. And so good for the Chancellor. The thing is, though, if he thinks he's going to be the next Tory leader, he isn't, because I've got news for you, Jeremy, if you're watching, because we know you do look in, you're going to lose your seat, because his majority used to be 28,000 down there in Surrey. It's now down to about 9,000. It's been split in half in boundary changes, down to about 4,000. He's out. So what this is about really is Jeremy Hunt posturing for the job after Parliament.
Well, he's not going to get a job with James Dyson, is he?
No,
anyway.
He's blown it. He's blown it. I wonder if he's got a Dyson vac.
Who knows? Anyway, we'd like to hear your thoughts. Do email us at reaction@dailymail.co.uk or comment below if you think Jeremy Hunt would be the next Prime Minister. This week, J.K. Rowling, Andrew's favourite author, who's frankly a hero as far as I'm concerned too, she should be the next Prime Minister, vowed to defy the new hate crime laws that come into force in Scotland on, rather appropriately, April the 1st.
Now, these new laws, brought in by the Scottish National Party government, would make misgendering a crime, and she's refused to delete tweets which, according to her critics, do just that. So,
J.K. Rowling, who I think has been extraordinarily courageous and also just sort of very consistent in the face of all this nonsense. Lives in Scotland, doesn't she?
She lives in Edinburgh, where she wrote Harry Potter.
Yes, so theoretically she could be arrested and under this new law.
I rather hope she is, because she'd be a great martyr. No, she'd be great. We could start the campaign, free the JK1.
I mean, how have we got to this stage anyway? It's just ridiculous.
Because the Scottish National Party government is awful. She has refused to withdraw the description of somebody who is now defining themselves as a man or a woman, the other way around. She's refusing to say, look, a man is a man, a woman is a woman, and just because you change your gender or change your ID yourself. It means nothing to her. If you're a man, that's it.
Yeah.
You can be a trans man or a trans woman, but you're a man or you're a woman. I'm a man, you're a woman.
Yeah.
And if I decide to identify as a woman, J.K. Rowling is not going to acknowledge that. She's still going to call me man. She's right.
Well, I mean, to be honest...
And Scotland won't have it.
It's up to her. It should be up to the individual.
It's nothing to do with the state.
It's not a matter for the... It's not a matter for the criminal courts. It's a question of interpretation. You know, it's like saying, you know, you might call me an old bag or a young...
Well, I've only called it a few times.
Yeah, but the point is that when I used to have short hair, which I used to have for years and years and years, I remember. Very short hair, often I used to get referred to as Sir from behind, because if people walked up to me from behind, because I'm quite sort of, square-jawed and stuff.
Yeah. So what?
So what? I mean, does it matter?
But but I wonder if she's become such a thorn in the side of the SNP government, if they are deliberately now picking a fight with her.
But I just think criminalising people for... I mean, part of this whole thing is also this idea which is being pushed by the person who is probably going to be the next Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, which is the idea of...
Criminalising conversion therapy,
so that's all part of this.
Yes.
And so, you could have a situation where, a child wants to be a different gender and they mention it to their parent or their carer or their teacher or whatever, and that person says, are you sure? And they could end up in Chokey, which is ridiculous.
And it's interesting because in this whole area this week, Kemi Badenoch, is she on manoeuvres for the Tory leadership? Who isn't on manoeuvres for the Tory leadership in the cabinet at the moment?
If Kemi Badenoch becomes the next Tory leader, I shall probably have to go and work for her because I think she's fabulous.
Well, she is fabulous, but she's equality. She's written an article this week saying this whole gender, this whole discrimination, this whole diversity issue has got to a point now where the white man is completely now marginalised and discriminated against. It's all part of this. But back to Joanna Rowling, I think she's heroic because she will not back down.
No.
She will not back down from saying there should be women-only spaces.
Yeah.
So if you go into a changing room in a department store, no man or no man who's identifying as a woman is going to be allowed into that space according to her. That won't happen in Scottish National Party government, and I suspect it won't happen under a Labour government.
I mean, the point is she's trying to protect vulnerable women.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself to be a vulnerable woman. If I go to Zara and there's a man in my changing room...
I'd tell him to get out.
It wouldn't bother me at all because I wouldn't be threatened because I'm not easily threatened.
Okay.
But if I were a vulnerable woman, then I might be threatened.
Yeah.
And those are the people that you need to protect.
If you've been sexually accosted by a man, the last thing you want to see is some bloke getting his kit off.
Exactly. Or, staring at me while I'm trying to squeeze into a Zara XL and totally failing.
And we know that this Scottish experiment has already failed because it was in Scotland, remember, where Sturgeon, the law changed and a man who's still in possession of his male equipment, but identifies as a woman, a rapist, was put into a women's only prison. And what did he do? He raped 2 women and they then moved him out and put him in a man's prison, but he'd been identifying as a woman. So if they can't see the madness of that,
it is insane. Yeah. So J.K. Rowling, you are right, we love you. If you do end up in jail, I shall come and visit.
Me too. And I will bring a file, not for your nails, but to file through the bars.
Exactly. Let us know what you think by commenting below or emailing reaction@dailymail.co.uk.
Now this is just moronic. The V&A, just remember who that's named after, the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, has compared one of the country's greatest Prime Ministers, no, I'll rephrase that, has compared the country's greatest Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, to Osama bin Laden and Adolf Hitler by labelling her a contemporary villain. Shameful, not funny, and disgusting. And we should remember, of course, the director of the V&A is Tristram Hunt, not related to Jeremy Hunt, who in a previous life was a Labour MP.
Yes, he's also,
he's also an historian, so he knows better than most.
So he should
to
really
compare
know
Mrs Thatcher to somebody who was part of the
Mrs. Thatcher
final
was
solution.
Quite a contentious figure for lots of people, so I can see why you put her in that category, but I don't think you put her in the same category as Osama bin Laden.
Who hated women and had women buried alive.
But and also, they sort of put her sort of in a Punch and Judy sort of setting where she was the kind of sort of pantomime villain.
Yeah.
And actually, she was a bit of pantomime villain towards the end. She was she was made into that, you know, thinking of spitting image and all of that. So I think it's an interesting, probably quite an interesting kind of discussion to have. But I think that you need to be very careful about applying these labels. I think this is all part of my daughter's theory, which is that the world is now being run by millennials, and that's why this kind of thinking is happening.
Well, that's a very good point.
Because I think this is true. I think this is a thing. This is superficial understanding of issues, which is something that the world suffers from gigantically, which is that everything is either black or white, right or wrong, up or down, and there's no nuance. You know, and Thatcher was a contentious figure. She did a lot of contentious things. She did a lot of great things. I mean, let's not forget Angela Rayner,
Labour's deputy leader. She'll be our deputy prime minister.
You know, bought her council house thanks to Margaret Thatcher's right to buy scheme.
Yes, she certainly did. This museum has form because some years ago there was a move to have her handbags and some of her outfits in a contemporary discussion about the importance of power dressing, and they didn't want it because they said it wasn't significant. My God, Margaret Thatcher's handbag was one of the main political accessories of the 20th century. She famously handbag people. So they don't like her. And I think it's pathetic, actually, to say...
but she was an interesting figure, and that's the sadness of this, is that they're dismissing all of that.
To reduce it to a Punch and Judy level.
Exactly. Mitterrand said of her that she had the eyes of Caligula and the mouth of Marilyn Monroe. I mean, if that isn't an interesting comment and somebody who deserves a bit of, you know,
and as you know,
analysis,
Sarah,
I don't know.
I have in my study a life-size cutout of Mrs. Thatcher. I bowed to it most nights, obviously, but I did get to know her a little bit in her twilight years, and there were flashes of vintage Thatcher, Arthur Scargill, oh my word, the eyes would flash. But I watched her in her pomp as a young political reporter at Westminster. Oh my gosh, she was awesome. There was nothing quite like Margaret Thatcher in full flow. And Hitler, please.
No, I know. It really is insulting.
It is offensive.
It is very insulting,
And the museum, I think, is now backing off a bit, isn't it? But it's job done, isn't it, Sarah?
But it's just,
we're talking about the stupid old museum, which gets, by the way, £10 million in public
but also
grants.
It's just low-hanging fruit. It's the same thing all over again. It's people who don't really understand the issues. It's that it's just intellectually lazy is what it is. It's intellectually lazy. Anyway.
The irony is, of course, Mrs. Thatcher would not give a hoot.
No, she
because she always, there was a famous quote from her once saying, "Oh my dear, when they descend into personal abuse, you know you've won the arguments." She's right.
Completely. My allergic reaction is another reaction to Oprah Winfrey's recent show about weight loss.
Oprah Winfrey was a great friend of Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle, she was. I don't think she is now.
I don't think anymore. I don't think she ever was.
She's done this show. She did a whole sort of hour-long special on Ozempic, or semaglutide, as it's sort of known.
This is the anti-fat drug.
This is the anti-fat drug. And she's been heavily criticised for bigging up Big Pharma. But I just think, I mean, I have no drum to beat for Oprah Winfrey particularly, but I do think Oprah does look amazing. She has lost a lot of weight. She did need to lose a lot of weight. She was quite overweight. And the thing is, I have been using semaglutide for a while, actually, now. So
do you inject it?
So when I was about 51 or 52, which was
last week,
about 3 days ago. So all my life I've struggled with my weight. I've got very underactive thyroid, and then I entered the menopause, and so I went on a massive weight loss kind of crusade when I was sort of in my early 50s, and lost the weight that I needed to lose, because my doctor had said to me, "You're pre-diabetic, you need to sort this out, this is not going to be good," and also there's a lot of diabetes in my family, so I just wanted to make sure that I didn't go down that route. And I lost quite a lot of weight, and then after about 6 months it started to creep back on again. So I thought, what I'm going to do is I can't do this anymore. I can't be on this sort of ridiculous diet the whole time. So I'm going to get a gastric band to stop myself from being able to eat so much.
Sounds drastic.
So I went to see a very nice surgeon called Marcus Reddy about this, and he said, "You're too thin for a gastric band," which is the first time in my life anyone's told me I'm too thin for anything. Anyway, hooray! Can I have that in writing? But there's this new drug from America called, at the time it was called liraglutide, and it was a daily injection. And he said, "I think you should try it because it's really good. It's a chemical gastric band, and it works on the hunger hormones in your stomach, and it basically suppresses those hunger hormones, which we all have. So what dictates your appetite are your hunger hormones." And I started taking it, and it really was very good. And then about a year later, he said, there's a new one that's just come out. They've done a massive study on it. It's called semaglutide, and it's only a weekly injection. I think it's better. I think you should go on to that. So I have been on that for I've been on semaglutide for about 4 years. And as you can see, I'm not rail thin at all. But I don't take it every week. Right. I use it probably about once or twice a month, just to kind of keep things under control. And what's brilliant about it is that if you are, like me, somebody whose pleasure is almost entirely derived from food, or always was, I would describe myself as a bit of a food addict. Every time that I had any emotional problems or anything, I would eat my feelings. Right. I'm a feeling eater. I don't really drink alcohol, I don't smoke, I don't do anything else. Food is my addiction, and I would turn to food, and because I think, as the doctor said to me, you're very insulin resistant. It used to make me feel much better, basically. So I was quite susceptible to it. And the good thing about the semaglutide is it stops all that. So you don't get the high from food that you used to get. So it becomes much easier to eat much smaller amounts, which in my case is very good, because I don't need to very much, because I do have, as my doctor says, the metabolism of a sclerotic snail, because I have such a problem with my thyroid. So the good thing is that it's allowed me to maintain my weight, keep it under control. I don't want to be super, super thin. That's never been my objective. I've always just wanted to be a good weight. And it's sort of re-educated my attitude with food, because it's taken away that toxic relationship that I used to have with food, where it was sort of something that I thought about. They always say men think about sex 47,000 times a day. I used to think about food 47,000 times a day. Do you know what I mean? I was obsessed with it. But what I think is so interesting about this Oprah Winfrey thing,
I think it was brave of her, because she didn't need to do it.
Exactly. She's been accused of bigging up Big Pharma. But what I would say is that there are a lot of people who don't like the idea of an anti-obesity injection that actually works, because they have this idea that being fat is that if you're a fat person, like I have been, that you're somehow morally deficient, and that you're sort of, that there's something, that you need to suffer in order to get over it. And the thing, what I would like to say to people about that is that if you have a problem with food, and I would say I did have a problem with food, and lots of people do have a problem with food, it's very difficult. If you have a problem with alcohol, or a problem with cigarettes, or a problem with, crack cocaine, you can go into rehab and stop taking those things. You can't stop eating food.
Because you have to eat.
You have to eat, and if you don't eat, you die. So basically, you can never escape your sort of drug, as it were. Yeah. So it's very hard, and I think this whole sort of judging people for being fat is very wrong. And I also think the other reason why, I also think that obesity and being overweight is partly to do with depression and mental illness, because I know from my experience, and I think everybody knows this, and everyone would share this, I think, is that if you get some people eat their feelings, if you get very sad or things are not going, you have a bar of chocolate, because it makes you feel better.
See, I've never had a sweet tooth. So
I know, but look at you, you're thin as a pin, and you couldn't take it because you'd disappear.
I would disappear. And if I'm depressed, nothing else.
A vodka. Anyway, it's a contentious issue, but I think it's a very interesting issue, and I think this drug has the potential to help a lot of people. Yeah,
so well done, Oprah Winfrey. Or maybe you don't agree.
Let us know. Probably you disagree with me, because most people do.
They don't.
By commenting below or emailing reaction@dailymail.co.uk.
And maybe you think I'm too thin as well. I don't.
No such thing. Now, we love reading your comments and thoughts here at The Reaction, even when you fundamentally disagree
when you're
with
rude
me,
about Sarah.
Which pretty much all of you did last week, I should say.
Oh, not again.
I know. Andrew, go.
Debbie on YouTube says, if Catherine had not released a photo on Mother's Day, the conspiracy theories would have gone crazy. She can't win.
Judith on YouTube says, Catherine always puts a Mother's Day photo out. Imagine if she hadn't.
Louise on YouTube says, I've been married for 54 years. And often take off my wedding band. There's nothing wrong with not wearing a ring. Prince William never wears a wedding ring, which is just fine.
And Dorothy on YouTube says, I never wear my rings around the house. I don't want them to get dirt and soap in the stone settings. And my rings will only be worth a fraction of Catherine's rings. I wouldn't wear that $1 million sapphire beauty around the house with the kids either.
I still think the rings was the one mistake they made, because even people like me who are great at looking at photos, it rang out.
It's because of who she is.
Why haven't you got your rings on?
If you don't wear your wedding ring, that doesn't matter. No one cares. Yeah. But if but then I mean, I agree. I take their point. I mean, a lot of people do take their rings
course.
off, and I imagine.
And she was at
she
home with
doesn't
the
wear the
kids.
engagement ring all
No.
the time.
Well, it's
all.
enormous.
It probably gets caught in all her jumpers.
Yeah.
Anyway, and if you want to message us about any of the week's talking points, you can comment below or email reaction@dailymail.co.uk. We are joined now by our Showbiz Katie. Speculation has been mounting. Do we finally know the name of the next James Bond? It's not Andrew, sadly.
It might be.
It's not.
It's not.
I'm busy.
They even ask you.
The first gay James Bond. Come on. It'd be perfect.
The first out James Bond. So
What are you suggesting?
There is
the first out James Bond. Sean Connery wasn't gay, was he? I'd be surprised. I interviewed him once. He never struck me as gay.
So with this new name that's in the frame is Aaron Taylor-Johnson. He is known best for a movie called Kick-Ass.
Yeah, Kick-Ass. He sounds very intellectual.
Yeah, well, I'm not
Is Kick-Ass about... I suppose it's kicking ass, but not a four-legged. It won't be a four-legged ass. It'll be
yes,
because that'd be animal cruelty.
Does he kick ass in the movie, and therefore is he quite sort of, muscly and stuff?
He is muscly, and actually there's been some pictures quite recently of him looking, quite buff. It was written yesterday that he's been offered the contract and he's expected to sign it this week.
Right.
Insiders. Nobody wants to actually go on the record here, but insiders at Eon, the production company of James Bond, have said that these rumours are false.
Right.
Now, I mean, I'm guilty of throwing the odd name out there myself, I have to admit. But for years, we've been reading, hearing all sorts of different names. Idris Elba. We've had
James Norton, who I like.
Well, I mean, James Norton is my favourite.
He'd be a good James Bond.
He'd be a wonderful James Bond. But so this kind of Aaron has been mooted before.
Yes,
over the last few years.
Honestly, I have to say I've never seen him before in my life.
No. But actually, if you look at James Bonds in the past, particularly, I mean, Daniel Craig wasn't
they're not always
huge.
famous. No,
they're not. And actually, it's that role that makes them.
Yes.
So Aaron Taylor-Johnson. However, Aaron Taylor-Johnson today in Rolling Stone, an interview that was done quite some time ago but has been published today, he says that he's not remotely interested in doing such a role.
Why? Why would you be interested in it?
Because he doesn't want to be paid 60 million in 10 years.
And I actually think so. It's more about the fact that he thinks he's a little bit snooty. I think he thinks it's a little bit below him.
And he is married to that posh director.
He is indeed married to that posh director who's a lot older than him.
Yes, he was 18 when he met her, and she was 43. Right, and she's Sam Taylor-Wood that was.
Yes,
she's now Sam Taylor-Johnson, of course.
Yes.
Wasn't she married to somebody famous?
She was married to Jay Joplin, the artist.
The artist, yeah.
They're both artists. She's an artist / film director, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yes. So ever since when they got together, he was very young. I mean,
he's still only 33. Young. Would that be quite young for a James Bond?
Well, no, definitely not. I think
right?
it is about right. Well, this is the issue with Idris Elba, isn't it? I mean, Idris Elba would be great.
How old is he? He's about 60 old now, isn't he?
No, I think he's probably late 50s.
Late
but I mean, that's too old.
Everybody is always being the next James Bond.
Yeah.
It's a classic thing, isn't it? So the young hot actor that no one really has heard of. Then someone says they're going to be the next James Bond. Then their pictures in all the papers and on the internet.
Yeah.
So it strikes me that what's he called? Aaron Taylor-Johnson.
Aaron Taylor-Johnson, yes.
His agent has earned their 50%.
So this someone else said this to me yesterday. Aaron Taylor-Johnson, these people are such lovies. There is no way. I mean, Aaron Taylor-Johnson's agent would not speak to me in a million years.
Why?
They don't. They will not engage.
This is a man who did a film called Kick-Ass.
Yes. So
what of his intellectual pretensions?
Well, you say that, but they don't. They don't. So Aaron Taylor-Johnson, I think, is probably mortified that this has all come out because what it's done is bring to the forefront his relationship with his wife.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Which has been there's been an awful lot of criticism about the age gap.
Yeah, but the agent is going to make an absolute fortune out of her client or his
also,
client.
I'm telling you, I have not been briefed by the agent, and none of my other fellow showbiz
But also, can I just say
have.
that if the gender roles were reversed, no one would mind.
But he was 18 and she was 43 and she was his boss.
Right.
But anyway,
listen, that's positively
It has lasted.
old compared to the Macrons, because when Miss Macron met his wife, he was 15, and she was best friends with her son was his best friend.
Yes, I know.
School.
Which is why we're talking about it now, isn't it? But what they've had to do,
terribly short skirts, Mrs. Macron.
What Sam and Aaron have had to do is limit who can comment on their Instagram, because there's been so many nasty comments left about her. Every time somebody, a male actor, does something, Richard Madden, when he was in Bodyguard, and everyone fancied him, and he was this, he was the man of the moment.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, everyone's writing stories, and I have to admit, I'm guilty. I am guilty of this myself. No, he was, and it was like, oh my God, he's not doing another series of Bodyguard because he's doing James Bond. Well, actually, what we also know.
Bodyguard died. No, she died, the Home Secretary.
Yeah, but there was mooting of a second series.
Oh no, that's terrible.
So,
do you think James Bond is a fundamentally out-of-date concept?
This is the other thing I was going to say. I think if you were to talk to somebody people in their 20s, they would not give a.
No.
What's it?
Yeah, but
I think they're sort of much more into sort of the Bourne Identity or films like that.
Mission Impossible is much better.
Yes, I mean Mission. I mean, I have to say
Tom Cruise is 60
Tom Cruise
now.
is amazing.
He is great.
He is great. Yeah.
I think the last James Bond was awfully sort of boring and woke,
I didn't
wasn't
watch
it?
it. Too worthy.
Yeah, and I think it is going to get more woke.
Yeah.
And I would bet on.
And that's a shame, because I think that's its appeal. I think if I were in charge of the James Bond franchise, which obviously I'm not, I would say let's just go old school about this. Let's just ignore all of that stuff and let's go absolutely the other way.
And make him a serial philanderer.
Exactly.
So, what we want to know is, who would you like to see play 007?
Oh, James Norton, please.
I'm definitely James Norton. Sarah Vine?
I mean, Brad Pitt. I just wanted to see him in
He's
everything.
too old.
I don't care. I just want to see Brad Pitt. I'm sorry. I'm of that generation. Brad Pitt is my,
Well, tell us what you think. You can email us at reaction@dailymail.co.uk, or of course you can comment below.
That's it for today. Join us again next week if you can for more reaction to the stories making the headlines.
And make sure you like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. So see you again next Wednesday.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.